Hello students, today we are talking about India-Australia relations. As we all know, from the last few days, PM Narendra Modi is on three-nation visit to Japan, Papua New Guinea and Australia. So he visited Japan to attend the G7 summit. As we all know, Japan is the host country for the G7 summit this year, and it has invited India to participate in the G7 summit as a guest country, and Papua New Guinea. He visited Papua New Guinea regarding the Forum for Indian Pacific Island Cooperation. This was established by India to have close ties, close relationship with the Pacific Island nations. And in his visit to Australia, currently he was in Australia, so he wanted to build a strong strategic partnership with Australia. During his visit to Australia, PM Narendra Modi said that the relation between the Australia and India is based on the mutual trust and respect. And he also addressed the larger diaspora of India in Sydney, and Australia has designated a suburb called Harris Park, which is located in Sydney, as Little India, to reflect the cultural ties between the two countries. And India also announced the opening of the consulate in Brisbane, which is a long-term demand from the Indian diaspora. And when I talk about India and Australia relations, when we see in the map, India and Australia are the largest stakeholders of the Indo-Pacific region, and they are connected through the Indian Ocean, right? India and Australia are connected through the Indian Ocean. Their trade and their future projects always depends on the stability and the strength of the Indian Ocean. As we all seeing that Indo-Pacific region is emerging as the global hub for geopolitics. So, the relations between the India and Australia became very critical in stabilizing the Indo-Pacific region. They are not only the like-minded democracies, but they also have this strategic partnership from several years. They have economic relationships, political relations, and cultural ties as well. Now it is Indian diaspora who are living in Australia plays an important role in taking forward the cultural ties between the India and Australia. There are many students who are flying to Australia for higher educations, and many more for employment purpose. There are more than 1 million Indian diaspora living in Australia, which is building up a soft power. So they can influence the Australian policies and Australian decisions in favor of the Indian government. And they also sending the remittances to India, which will bridge the current account deficit, which is very important. So when I talk about the historical perspective, India and Australia have the first time established diplomatic relations in the pre-independence period in 1941. But in 1998, when India carried out the Pokhran nuclear test, Australia was very critical towards India. India was put under the economic and technological sanctions by US plus European countries. So Australia also joined that club, and we have been very critical towards India. But in 2014, Australia signed uranium supply nuclear deal with India, the first of its kind with country that is a non-signatory to the non-nuclear non-proliferation treaty, in recognition of the India's impeccable non-proliferation record. This immense transmission from 1998 to 2014 shows that the strategic interdependence between the two countries. So when I talk about economic cooperation, India signed Economic Cooperation Trade Agreement with Australia. It is the first free trade agreement signed by India with a developed country in a decade, which entered into force in December 2022. And it hopes to double the bilateral trade volume from 27.5 billion in 2021 to 45 to 50 billion dollars in the next 5 years. Through this agreement, India and Australia are planning to create 1 million jobs as well. And this agreement has a clause called rule of origin, which prevented the dumping of the goods from Australia to India, and it also prevent the third party misusing the free trade agreement route. And it also have a mandatory review mechanism in 15 years after the implementation. And it also has a dispute resolution mechanism. If we have any disputes, it can be resolved through this dispute resolution mechanism. So this agreement to take effect from December 29, 2022, and it allows zero duty by Australia on 100% tariff lines. And as I told you, it can create the 10 lakh jobs in India, and it increases the investments from Australia and Indian yoga teachers and the chef to gain with annual visa quota as well, and over 1 lakh Indian students to benefit from post-study work visa. And it also boosts the exports, as the goods which have been chosen for duty free are mostly under the labor intensive sector, so which ultimately increase the employment in the manufacturing sectors. About 85% of the goods from Australia are given duty free access to the Indian markets. So when I talk about India-Australia Defence Cooperation, we have 2+2 ministerial dialogue, which allows the Defence Minister and the Foreign Minister of both the countries to discuss on the foreign policies and the security issues. And we also signed the Mutual Logistics Support Agreement. It allows the armed forces to get the military support from the military bases of each other for the logistics support. And when I talk about the military exercise, we have AUSENDEX, which is the bilateral navy exercise between the two countries, which will be conducted every year. And we also have Austra-Hind, a military exercise between the two countries. And when I talk about Malabar exercise, it was signed in 1992 between US and India. Later we have invited Japan and Australia as well. And this year Australia will host the Malabar exercise in August 2023 with the participation from India, Japan and US. And India has also been invited to join the Talisman Sabri exercise in 2023. And we are also part of IORA, Indian Ocean Rim Association, and provide the cooperation with the Indian Ocean region. And to help these students who are flying to Australia for higher education, there is something called Mutual Recognition of Educational Qualifications, signed in March 2023. We have signed this in this March 2023 to help the students flying to the Australia for higher education. So through this, Australian universities will recognize the degrees given by the Indian universities, and many of the Australian universities are opening the branches in India as well. And we also signed an agreement regarding the critical mineral investment of lithium, rare earth minerals, etc. And we are also part of the International Solar Alliance and investing in the Pacific Island nations, and we are giving the financial and the technological support to the Pacific Islands so that they can invest in the solar power. There was a common concern regarding the revival of the Khalistan activities in India and as well as the world. So we are seeing the similar tendencies in the Indian diaspora of Australia as well. Some sections of the Sikh communities have been radicalized with the crisis escalated in Punjab, and we have seen the protests and clashes as well between the pro-Khalistan and pro-Indians in Australia. And we have there are incidents attacking the Indian consulates, and the Hindu temples have been destroyed by the pro-Khalistan elements. So recently, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that we will not tolerate any such activities which will affect the India and Australia relations, and we need the intelligence cooperation between the countries to deal with such kind of threats. So when I talk about the challenges in India-Australia relations, Adani coal mine controversy. There was a controversy over the Adani coal mine project in Australia with some activists protesting it, which created a strain in the relation between the Australia and India. And there are also concerns over the visa restrictions for the Indian students and professionals seeking to work in Australia. And as I told you, attacks on Indian diaspora and the temples in the recent past by Khalistan supporters have been an issue of strain. So here is a great news for the students who are going to start their preparation for UPSC and who have been dreaming to become an IS or IPS officers. Ekam IS Academy is starting up its foundational batch from 23rd June 2023 and the admissions are open. And to book your personal counseling with major SPS Obracer who have been UPSC mentor from more than a decade and who has been helped the many students to achieve their dreams. So to book an appointment for the personal counseling, please call upon the given numbers. So this is all about the India-Australia relations. For more such videos, please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Thank you. All the best.